What erupted from the hole was beyond comprehension. Body parts, blood, and viscera spewed forth like lava from a volcano on the brink of eruption. Among the carnage, half of Jason's head landed next to Thompson with a sickening squelch. The half-face, frozen in a grotesque expression of fear and agony, told a tale of unimaginable horror. It was as if some monstrous entity had taken a savage bite and discarded it carelessly. The image, so vivid and horrific, was seared into my memory, a reminder of the unspeakable terror that lurked within that dark abyss. The horror that unfolded before my eyes was something out of a nightmare. My childhood friend, reduced to a mere fragment of flesh and bone, lay grotesquely beside me. Driven by a mix of fear and fury, I grabbed 2 grenades, yanked the pins, and hurled them into the abyss. "Let's get out of here, Tom," I shouted, my voice filled with terror. We turned to flee, but after just a few strides we skidded to a halt, falling back in shock. There she stood, about 15 feet away, that little girl. But now she held the grenades I had just thrown. Tears streamed down my face, a mixture of fear and disbelief. Her smile was unnaturally wide, stretching from ear to ear, her face devoid of eyebrows, and her eyes. Those eyes were the same void-like blackness as the creature in the hole. Then, in a movement that defied nature, she opened her jaw unnaturally wide and swallowed the grenades. A blinding flash erupted, followed by a rain of blood and flesh. Thompson and I shielded ourselves instinctively from the gruesome shower. When I lowered my hand, my gaze fell upon a towering, skinless creature. Its muscles, visible and decaying, hung loosely on its frame. Its face, a patchwork of mismatched skin, was a horrifying sight. Among these patches, I recognized a familiar scar, the one Jason had from our childhood. It was a cruel mockery of his existence, now part of this demonic entity. Before I could process this terror, the creature lunged towards Thompson with frightening speed. In 2 strides, it grabbed him, lifting him effortlessly into the air. Thompson's eyes met mine, filled with an indescribable terror. He was unable to utter a word before being savagely torn in half. The creature tossed one half of his body at my feet and began to devour the other half. In sheer panic, I ran. I ran until my lungs burned and my legs gave way. My survival instincts took over, propelling me through the complex and into the desert. I remember nothing of my escape, only the overwhelming need to flee. I awoke under the merciless desert sun, disoriented and on the brink of death. The next thing I knew, I was in a military hospital in Baghdad. "Welcome back, sir. How are you feeling?" a medical staff asked. I could only whisper, my voice choked with tears. Later, a contact from the agency informed me that they found no trace of Bravo team or Thompson in the complex. They did find the steel door in the courtyard and, incredibly, a little girl inside the bunker. The door wasn't covered in the blood symbols I had seen. I was stunned. "Where's the girl now?" I asked, my heart sinking as he told me she had vanished after being taken into custody. It all started to piece together in my mind. The complex, the bunker, the symbols. They were a prison for something unspeakably evil. And now, it was free. The feeling of that creature's gaze piercing into my soul was unforgettable, and I knew it was coming for me. I had to share this story. As I write these words, I feel its presence drawing nearer, a darkness creeping towards my soul. There's not much more I can say. Just live. Live while you can. Under the unforgiving blaze of the desert sun, I felt like a forgotten meal in an oven, left to overcook in the merciless heat. The sun's relentless gaze seemed to pierce through me, as if challenging my very existence in this desolate wasteland. Beside me, Thompson's voice cut through the haze of the heat. "Not yet," he said firmly. I wiped away a bead of sweat that dared to obstruct my vision, refocusing on the target through my scope. The desert wind, a fickle ally, had finally calmed, presenting the perfect moment. I steadied my breath, focusing on the task at hand, and with a silent prayer, I pulled the trigger. "Last target down," I whispered. a sense of relief washing over me as I let out a breath I didn't realize I'd been holding. "Bravo team, you're clear," I radioed in. "Let's move, Jack." We advanced to our next position, moving with a purpose honed by years of training. From our new vantage point, I could just make out Bravo team, like shadows, slipping through the back gate of the sprawling complex. "Thompson, remind me again, why are we out here?" I asked, my voice tinged with a mix of curiosity and exhaustion. Thompson, ever the stoic, just shrugged. "Who knows? Those agency folks are tight-lipped. It's highly classified," he mimicked with a hint of sarcasm. "But hey, they know we're the best." "Damn right," he added with a hint of pride. I couldn't help but smile at his unwavering confidence. I checked in with Jason, an old comrade who now led Bravo team. "What's the situation?" I asked. His response was unsettling. "This place, it's massive, like a whole community, but it's eerily silent, almost abandoned, yet not quite." That was strange. Intelligence had briefed us on a meeting of high-ranking officials from Saddam's regime. "Wait, that's what you were told?" Thompson interjected, surprised. "All we knew was our role, to provide cover." I scanned the horizon, the vast emptiness stretching out around the complex. No roads, no power lines, just this isolated structure amidst an ocean of sand and rock. Something felt off. If Saddam's top officials were here, there should be more security, I mused aloud. "Yeah, it's strange," Thompson agreed, peering through his binoculars. "Anything on your end, Jason?" I radioed in. His next words sent a chill down my spine. "Found a steel door in the courtyard. Symbols all over it. Looks like blood." The uncertainty in his voice was palpable. "We're trying to blow it open. Stand by," he added. Thompson, ever the joker, quipped about a potential party as he checked his ammo. But his humor couldn't cut through the growing tension. As the sun began its descent, casting an eerie glow over the desert, we heard a muffled thump from the complex. "Door's tough. Blew the symbols off, though." Jason's voice crackled through the radio. The mystery deepened. What, or who, was so important to warrant such secrecy? The last rays of sunlight vanished, leaving us in the embrace of the cold desert night. We donned our night vision goggles and moved closer to the complex, ready to support Bravo team. "Standing by at the back gate," I informed Jason, the weight of the unknown pressing heavily upon us. I'll admit, it felt strange addressing Jason as Sir. We were practically brothers, only a year apart in age. Growing up, he was a constant fixture at my house, especially during those long summer weekends. We were inseparable, like brothers from different mothers. After the events of September 11th, we both felt the call to serve and join the military. Our paths diverged somewhat, but the bond we shared remained unbreakable. It had been years since we last spoke, and reuniting under these bizarre and secretive circumstances stirred a mix of emotions in me. My train of thought was abruptly shattered by a burst of gunfire echoing from deep within the complex. I exchanged a knowing look with Thompson, and we both raised our rifles, moving swiftly towards the entrance. The gates and walls of the complex loomed over us, imposing and tall, painted with the same unsettling blood-red symbols that Jason had mentioned. At the time, I didn't give them much thought. As we slipped through the back gate, we found ourselves in a narrow corridor, flanked by what seemed to be apartment doors. We advanced with caution, our senses heightened, every nerve on edge. The complex felt even more enormous from the inside, an endless labyrinth of hallways and rooms. It was disorienting, almost as if the place was larger on the inside than it appeared from the outside. If you were ever unfortunate enough to find yourself in such a place, you'd understand the unnerving feeling. We reached the end of the corridor, only to be met with a choice: 2 separate hallways. "What now?" Thompson asked, his voice tense as he covered our rear. In situations like these, every second counts. Every decision could mean life or death. Just as I was about to suggest a direction, a young girl appeared at the end of the right hallway, as if materializing from thin air. "Thompson, tell me you see that girl too," I whispered, half expecting her to be a mirage. "I see her," he confirmed, his voice steady. Thompson had taken Arabic courses in college and, although not fluent, he knew enough to communicate the basics. He lowered his M16 and called out to the girl in Arabic, trying to sound as friendly as possible. "Hey, little girl, we're friends. Where is everyone?" But as soon as he finished speaking, the girl turned and ran. We followed, but cautiously. This was still unknown territory, and we had just heard Bravo team engage in a firefight. We had to stay alert. Rounding the corner, we entered what seemed like the main courtyard, and I was struck by its sheer size. It was almost as large as a football field, which seemed impossible given the dimensions of the complex. But that wasn't the most disturbing part. There was no sign of Bravo team, no trace of any struggle. The silence was deafening. In my years of combat, I'd learned to trust my senses implicitly, but in this place, they felt dulled, almost useless. "Sir, we're at the courtyard, but there's no sign of anyone," I radioed to Jason, hoping for some guidance. But there was no response, just an eerie silence. Confusion clouded my mind as much as my senses. Where were the hostiles? Where was Bravo team? The gunfire we'd heard earlier suggested a fierce battle, yet there were no signs of combat, no debris, nothing out of place. Then Thompson's voice broke the silence. "I see something in the middle of the courtyard," he said, his tone cautious yet curious. We advanced slowly, unsure of what to expect in this baffling and unnerving complex. As we cautiously approached the center of the expansive courtyard, the unease in my gut grew with every step. Even with our night vision, the object in the distance remained a blur. My adrenaline surged like a violent wave. Each heartbeat felt like a drum echoing in my chest, threatening to burst. In my years of service, I've faced dangers that would break most men. I've been shot at, stabbed, narrowly escaped IED explosions, endured captivity, and witnessed the horrors of suicide bombings. Yet none of those experiences compared to the foreboding I felt now. This was a different breed of fear, like a pig knowingly walking into a slaughterhouse, fully aware of its inevitable fate. As we moved closer, the ground beneath our feet told a grim story. Shell casings littered the floor, and a sticky, wet substance coated the ground. "Is this blood?" Thompson asked, his voice barely above a whisper as he crouched to inspect the liquid. "Damn it, it is," he confirmed with a mix of horror and disbelief. "Where's Bravo team?" I demanded, my voice laced with a fear I desperately tried to mask. Then, abruptly, footsteps echoed in the stillness, coming from directly ahead of us. We raised our rifles, switching off our night vision to better assess our surroundings. "Is that the girl from the hallway?" I muttered, my eyes scanning the darkness. Before Thompson could utter a word, the girl leapt into what appeared to be a hole in the ground. We sprinted towards the spot, only to realize it wasn't just a hole. It was the entrance to the bunker Jason had mentioned, the one supposedly impenetrable. "I thought they couldn't open it," Thompson said, confusion evident in his tone. "I don't think they did," I replied, a sense of dread settling in. I pulled out a light stick, cracked it, and tossed it into the abyss. We watched in silence as the light stick grew smaller and smaller, eventually swallowed by the darkness below. This bunker, it must be at least 300 feet deep. How is that possible? I wondered aloud. Thompson cracked another light stick and threw it down. For a brief moment, the stick illuminated something before scattering to the left. We instinctively stepped back, our rifles aimed into the gaping darkness. In that fleeting instant, I saw something I couldn't fully comprehend. A face, or what was left of it, its flesh melted away, exposing bone and muscle beneath. But the eyes, they were a void, an abyss darker than the night, devoid of light or life. "Shoot it!" I yelled, my voice barely recognizable. We fired blindly into the hole, the sound of our gunfire echoing in the vast emptiness. Reloading as fast as we could, we prepared to fire again, but then we heard something from below. In a split second, I stepped back, tripping and falling to the ground.